All right. So when you're factoring a reciprocal function and the x-coordinate has got something other than a 1 on it, you have to factor that out. So before I can do anything in the denominator here, I'm going to factor out the 4. Now, once I've done that, okay, that's going to tell me what my b value is, 4, but it's going to tell me what the true h value is, which in this case would be -2, and the k value is 0. All right, so that's that part. Can't, or back here, please. Because when you move seats, I got to change my whole seating chart in case I get called in. It's okay. All righty. So once you've done that now, you've got 3 things that are happening here. You've got a vertical stretch. That's what the A value does. Okay, I'm on page 12, everybody. Okay. All right, and to do that vertical stretch, what you would do is you would take your y coordinate and you'd multiply it by 3. All right, then what this 4 does, that's the b value. So when b is greater than 1, right here, what it's actually going to do, because it's bizarro world, is that it's going to horizontally shrink your x-coordinates. All right, so I'm going to take the x-coordinates and I'm going to multiply them by 1/4. So that's going to be a horizontal shrink. The way I'm going to achieve that is I'm going to take the x-coordinate and multiply it by 1/4. Okay, and then the last thing is this slide. So then I'm going to slide my graph 2 places left. And the way I do that is I take x and I take away 2 from the x-coordinate. All right, so that's the 3 things that are happening to this graph. Now, the order that you do them matters. Okay, so the way that you figure out the order is if you've got any transformations that work on the same coordinate. So I've got this x times 1/4 and I've got this x minus 2. All right, you always do the multiplication out of those 2 first. So when we go to graph this in a little bit, we're going to do this transformation first. We're going to do this transformation second, and then we would do the vertical one third. Now, you could also do the vertical one first, and then do the shrink and the shift. As long as you follow the multiplication before addition, subtraction. Whether you do the vertical at the beginning or the end, it wouldn't change anything. You'd still get the same figure. All right, and then we just do we know our h's affect these 2 things, and our k value affects the horizontals. So fill this in. -2. So there won't be any -2's in the denominator or in the domain. Y equals 0 is an asymptote, so there won't be any zeros in the range. And there's your graph. That's how we're going to end up graphing it. And this one's just the exact same thing. Here we got A of 4, a B of 2, and H of -3/2, and a K of 0. Remember, that's bizarro world. So I'm multiplying. Right here it says a factor. Factor means multiplying by 1 over b. That's where the 1/4 comes. Then we got ourselves a slide. Whoops, I made a mistake here, guys. This H should be +3/2, not negative. So this thing's going to slide to the right. Let's see. These two work on the same coordinates. So I could do the vertical stretch at the beginning or at the end, as long as I keep these two in the correct order. I do the multiplying before I do the adding when it talks about these two transformations. Okay, can I move it? Okay. Oh. Okay, now we got it. Now we graph them. Okay, so something that I want you to write out on this page here and then highlight it is this. Okay, so this is how you know what you're doing. If two transformations affect the same coordinate, perform the multiplication one first. only when, if they don't work on the same coordinate, like you got something doing something to an X and then the other one doing the Y, then the order doesn't matter. You can do it either way. It's only when they're working, you got two things working on the X, excuse me, or you got two things working on the Y. Our anchor points, and then once we got the anchor points, graph it. So I'm on page 15. All right. So we anything that has to get factored, we factor. Right? So let's do those first. So let's see, we got, this guy's going to turn into this guy. This guy. Right? A's. 1, 3. So that's a or a vertical stretch. So y times, and here we got A is 1, and we like that because it doesn't do anything. Okay, now your B's, you got yourselves a 4. That takes your X coordinate times 1 over 4. Same thing here. X coordinate times a quarter. X coordinate times 1. All right, H's. We got ourselves a negative 2. Right? Vertical asymptote. Okay, and then finally K. Almost done. So that's everything you need to know. That's like you're describing everything that's happening to that figure. Now we got HJs. For a reciprocal function, you're always working with the same anchor points. 1, all right, so on the first one, you've got transformations that both do the X. That works on an X, that works on an X. So what we learned, I want to do the one that affects the X coordinate first, right here, or the one that involves multiplication. Okay, so that's what's important. All right, head back down this way. I want to do that. All right, so that has got to happen first. All right, so when I do this, the first thing I'm going to do to this X is I'm going to multiply it by a fourth and then take away 2. All right. So 1 times a fourth is 1/4. 1 times 1/4 is 1/4, and then when I subtract 2, I'm going to be left with -1 3/4. And then nothing's happened to the y coordinate, so it's unchanged. And this guy, -1 times 1/4, that's -1/4 minus 2 is going to be -2 1/4. So that's how I got those two numbers. Now I plot those and then I can draw my graph. -1 3/4. -1 3/4. 1. Okay, so that guy's going to go -1 there, almost to 2, and then up 1. -2.5, -1. There's your graph. So we did this guy. We did this guy was first. Get that second. Okay. All right, now you got 3 things happening. 2 of them work on the x's. So these work on the x. So I'm going to do the multiplication guy first, and then the adding and subtracting one second. And then this deals with the third, with the y coordinate. So I can do it at the very beginning or at the end. Okay. So 1/4 times 1. Then I'm going to add 2. So it's 1/4 times 2, 2 1/4. Take the y coordinate and multiply it by 3. -1 times 1/4, -1/4 plus 2 is +1 and 3/4. Okay, plot that. 2 1/4 and 3. 2 1/4, 3. 1 3/4, -3. 1 3/4, -3. And now the last one, these two guys are both competing for his attention. Whoops. But multiplying impresses the X more than subtracting 2. This guy goes first, second, and then we do the Y thing. All right. So 1 times a half, and then minus 2. So it's a half minus 2, which is negative 1 1/2. That's going to be the Y coordinate times or add 4. That's negative 2. Okay, and then you're going to plot those. So negative 1 1/2 and 5. And negative 2 1/2 and 3.